Welcome to this Friday Brunch Dharma, 22nd of May. This morning I'm going to talk about the fourth khanda, sangkara. Sankara, you can always put whatever that is not rupa, whatever that is not vedana, whatever that is not sanya, or whatever that is not vijnana into sankara. That means anything that is not material form, feeling, perception, or consciousness, you put it in this fourth khanda, sangkara. Now, there's so much in it, but I'm going to talk about what you need in sangkara to practice as part of your path of practice. Now, I define sangkara that you need to know as mental formation and condition. Well, mental formation means thinking. Now, this thinking can come in two ways. One, at the point of perception. That means when you come into contact with something, you have perception of something. At that time, you start thinking what it is. Yeah. And then it goes on, the thinking goes on. And when it goes on, you come to a point, there's the arising of desire. You want it, or you don't want it. But usually, you go the way of wanting, that's our passion. So when we desire for it, then it can only go in one or two ways. Because we don't have it, we envy. This envy comes up, this car, somebody else has a car, belongs to the neighbor, and envy arises when you can't have it externally. Then the other side also can come out, which is hatred. And that hatred is towards inside. You hate that you cannot get it. You desire, you want it. And that hatred of yourself goes towards feeling your own inadequacy. You feel inadequate. When you feel inadequate, then you start thinking about things about yourself. Right? And then you go into depression. Or you go into melancholy. So that's how it comes, from thinking, from desiring, and then from hatred, or from envy. So what do? We want to stop at the point when we are thinking. We do not want desire to develop from that thinking. So I've always said, how do you stop thinking? By saying that it is not sure, uncertain. Whatever you think, the way you think, whatever the result that comes from your thinking, you want to say it is not sure. Right? Because it is only one point of view. There are always two sides of the view. You can see it's good, you can see it's bad. Well, you have this car, it's good, but you have to maintain it. It's going to take you a lot of time, take you a lot of money. So there's both sides. So you cannot you cannot see both sides. Right. What you have to do is say not sure. Something which Ajahn teaches, not sure. When you say it's not sure, then the thinking stops. Not sure means it's empty. Empty of something which is good, or empty of something which is bad. So you do not have a standpoint. Right? When you stand on emptiness, you cannot proceed further. Right? So that stops your thinking. So when the thinking stops, then the desire does not arise, or the aversion does not arise. Now what happens is that there is another path which thinking takes you. Now when it comes not to things, but to knowledge or to views, say for example, this path of practice, how we practice, how we should practice. Lots of it, vipassana, samatha, all sorts of practices. So we think about it, then the desire comes on, right? And then we either are adverse to it, or we like it. Now, we have developed that thinking up to the point where we have an idea what the practice path is, say for example, then we can either have an aversion to it, or we have an attraction to it, whether we like it or dislike it. Now once we form that view, it stays with that path. That path is either something we like or something we don't like. So we have established a view. And that view becomes our conditioning. So the next time we come into contact with this view of the path, what happens is that the feeling arises, dependent on origination. We have conditioned it. When the feeling arises, then we argue our way. When you don't have enough argument, we go and search, read about it, find argument to support our view. Right? And also the other side, we find arguments against that view. Right? So we continually build up our liking for that particular view and disliking for a particular view. Right? So when that becomes very strong view, it becomes a belief. Right? There is another way which we are conditioned, and that is by coming into contact with a particular view every day. And when we come in contact with that particular view, it is always the feeling that is associated with the view. If the feeling is good, then we hold on to that view. If the feeling for that view is not good, then we reject. We have an aversion for it. Now that's one way of brainwashing somebody, and you present them a view, and then you have the associated, then they get attached to that view. Or you You present somebody with a view, and then create a painful feeling that arises with it. Then they will be adverse to that view, and that's how it happens when we mix in a group. When we're in a group of people, and when you say a view that's agreeable to them, well, they praise you, and you're happy. They say, this is a good view, everybody likes it. You associate it as a good view, the right view for you. And then when you say something that the group doesn't like, then they condemn you, they argue with you, and you get this bad feeling. So you're conditioned that way. So the group you mix condition you, not only your thinking, the way you speak, your speech, and the way you act, and your livelihood. So that's why the Buddha says in the Mangala Sutta, do not associate with fools, people who don't know right from wrong. Right? So you don't associate with wise people. When you the wise people, you have the wise conditioning. You know that their conditioning is good, and they pass it on to you. The strongest view that we have is the view of self. Now that comes through a conditioning. The conditioning comes from our world. When you're a baby and you grow up, you know that you can't get away from, say, just object. In the beginning, just pointing object, say chair, and nobody understands you, right? Or say food, nobody understands you. Then you later learn about yourself, you say, I want food, right? And then people understand. You start establishing this view of I, and this food, So I don't want food, or I don't want this food. So this conditioning of I, begins from the very early age. And then that conditioning continues, People like what you do, they praise you. You go, I am somebody, People like this behavior that I have. And on another instance, you do something. Oh, people don't like you. This behavior which people don't like. People associate those behavior with you. All this conditioning says you did that. So you believe, there is somebody in you that do this thing. Right? So from an early age, you have this conditioning about ourselves and others. That everybody has a self. But like I say, it starts from a view. And when that view is very strong, it becomes a belief. Become to believe in the self and atta. So the Buddha teaches us, well, there's no you, there is the atta, and the atta comes from your view of self, from your perception of self, from your consciousness of self. He says, do not hold on to the self. It causes suffering. So it tells you of a way to see how things work, how events unfold. That's dependent on origination, depending on feeling, depending on contact, feeling arises, depending on feeling, craving or aversion rises, and so on. Okay? So we got to go back to what the Buddha teaches us, the praying. This conditioning of a self-view and view of others. And I've also talked about the mental identity. That's another way of doing it. Now, when you know that you're conditioned by your environment, then every time when you hear something, the conditioning happens. So every time when you hear something, the first time you come across it, when you know it is not true, you want to tell yourself internally, that's not true. When you know it's not true, or you say, not sure, right? So your view doesn't change through this constant conditioning. You don't have to say it out loud. You say within yourself, not sure. That's it. When you do that, then it doesn't associate that view with any feelings at all, good or bad. But when your views get associated with good or bad feelings, that's a conditioning in itself. That conditioning will continue to arise. But once you're in that path of conditioning, you go according to the path of that conditioning. We like a particular subject, self-help, or whatever. Then we go to bookshop, we go to that particular section. We don't go to any section. We're going to do the study history or geography or something, but no, self-help. So when you know yourself, that you're conditioned by others, you want to also know that you are also conditioning others. So make sure, whatever you say, try to make sure that you know what you're talking about. Do not gossip. You're conditioning people. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to chant the transference of merit. You've listened to this Dhamma, and think about it, straighten your views, get more merit, and then you will transfer this merit to your departed relatives while I'm chanting transference of merit. Yatha varivaha pura paripurinti sagaram evam eva ito dilam petlanam upakapati ichitam patitam tumham kipam iba sami jatu sape purintu sangapa chando panaraso yatha Manijoti raso yatha sapitiyo vivajantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate pavan vantarayo sukhi digayuko bhava apivatana sili sanitam buddha pachayino chataro dhammava Tanti ayuvano sukhang balang bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanupavena satha soti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang Rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanupavena sattha soti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanu sattha soti bhavantu te.